Hey guys, I'm Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
We are the Anthony and Todd Show. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the latest Mac Miller album, Swimming.
In a record which Mac Miller goes swimming for an hour, he attaches a lavalier mic to him that is somehow water resistant and takes a nice dip in the pool.
He goes, "Hey man, don't splash me, man." That's my Mac Miller impression.
That's not even close.
Yeah,
it's like
is.
Mac Miller, it's weird. Like he has this weird, like kind of like southern like
and he's
Kentucky
he
like
speaks out of like he speaks like a French person.
Yeah.
He speaks like
Cajun almost. Weirdly.
No,
it's
like the French language is all through like your lips, like like that kind of thing. But like Mac Miller's like a southern accent mixed with like French vocal form.
French diction.
French mouth formation with a southern accent.
Okay.
So I guess Cajun, but not.
Yeah, it's weird how he speaks, but he's a Pittsburgh rapper and producer. He's known for several great tracks such as "Dang" with Anderson .Paak, and one of his earlier moments, Donald Trump, which has become kind of
like on his first mixtape.
It's become out of place in recent times.
It really
because
has
of the political scene. But one really poppy moment as of late, 2015, he released one of his most maturing projects yet with Good AM, where he seemed to wake up and like be present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He was still spacey, still provided this kind of like otherworldly atmosphere, but he was awake for a majority of it. And at the time, I really enjoyed this record when it was released because, I don't know, I just remember having a lot of fun with it at the time. Almost like 100 Grandkids and Weekend. I just remember listening to this album a lot during the first few weeks of college. It just kind of transported me to the world that I kind of needed at the time. At the current moment, I don't think it's like a fantastic record, but I think it's one of his better moments in his discography for sure.
Sure.
And I think probably till date, it's probably been his best project. He followed that up in 2016's The Divine Feminine, which it's not bad. There's some really strong moments like "We," "Stay," "Dang," "God is Fair," "Sexy Nasty" with Kendrick.
Mm-hmm. That's too many syllables.
Yeah.
You only have one.
"We" with CeeLo, as I mentioned, is solid.
That's a really solid
moment.
I actually really enjoyed The Divine Feminine. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was all about like Mac Miller and his then girlfriend Ariana Grande talking about like how women are like should be treated right, and I think that's like a very different scene than what the hip hop game offers. I feel like Mac Miller has always kind of been a counter figure in hip hop, and he's paid for it sometimes, but like a lot like just being white in general, he's a driving like white figure in hip hop. Blue Slide Park is one of the first independent records to chart since like 95. He is talking about like respecting women instead of like disrespecting them. A lot of like positive or just kind of like neutral things. He's not really going against anything like in a bad way, but The Divine Feminine hit like a lot of flack for almost like worshiping Ariana Grande, and like a lot of people I think thought it was boring, but
there's moments that it's boring. Like I remember Cinderella with Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeah, there were definitely some boring moments, but there were some also like really high points. But Swimming, his fifth studio album, it was created in response to him and Ariana Grande breaking up, and then Ariana Grande starting to date and is now engaged to Pete Davidson.
Which is the weirdest fucking thing.
Yeah, very, very strange thing. But everybody seems to be really for it and kind of leaving Mac in the dark, being like, oh, you didn't treat her right. But like, I don't know what anybody knows about that. But this is kind of like a continuation of The Divine Feminine and about like healing and self-love and self-care. And maturing as a person. And I think that that's like a good place for him to go. I think it's what he needed.
Yeah. I was unsure. I was really nervous going to this record because I was unsure what Mac Miller we were going to get, because Mac Miller has been really strange. We mentioned a lot of his discography before, but we didn't mention the horrorcore album that he made when he was heavily on drugs, with collaborations from like the likes of Earl Sweatshirt. That was just completely stupid. We didn't mention his Larry Lovestein stint, where his Larry Lovestein EP, where he becomes a jazz artist, and it's kind of all over the place. And elements of that do show up on this, but overall, I can see this being really polarizing release for people.
Yeah.
In my view, I don't find it bad. I think there's obviously weak things about it, but as a release, I didn't have a hard time listening to it.
No.
Towards the end, I think, oh yeah, this is getting too long. Like, you need to cut it, but like, I didn't find a lot of Mac's cheesiness. This album's incredibly cheesy. It's incredibly quirky.
Mac is incredibly cheesy. He always has been, and I think he always will be.
And it's not anything that like,
it's not a deal breaker.
There's moments where I just find his vocals really annoying, and I just kind of want him to be toned down a bit. And eventually, they are toned down a bit in sections. He's not a good vocalist. He's on the Yachty Rosenstock spectrum and the passionate part for sure. I think he does try his hardest.
And that's all we ask.
That's all we ask. And for me personally, I sense a lot of character and a lot of quirkiness from his vocals. I can see a lot of people hearing his vocals and being, no, that's just unfine tuned. Yes, but he's presenting his character. I think Mac Miller comes off as a cheesy individual on this, but almost like a character from like an indie film, like a Hopeless Romantic.
Yeah.
That isn't, he's going through a lot of problems, but there isn't a lot of depth. Like, there isn't a lot of depth to this album. This album, again, for his cheesiness and for his lyricism, there's like a kiddie pool amount of depth, so like nothing.
The story of which it was made from is about the most amount of depth you're going to get from this. This is in response to a breakup, in response to the girl that you love getting engaged to somebody else, and we can all say like, oh, that's sad, and I feel bad for Mac on this, like on the whole project, I feel bad for him, but it never goes into the depth of like why it happened. It never says like why they broke up. It never said on what terms they are now. It never explicitly like gets to the core of the problem. It's just like, this is what it's about, and I don't blame him for like not wanting to delve into his personal life all the time, because you don't have to, but it helps with depth to dive into more revealing subjects, and this is a revealing subject that wasn't explored to its fullest.
Also, I find that like the lyrical lack of depth isn't really a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that it's probably going to be a deal breaker for a lot of other people. His vocals, his lack of consistent narrative lyricism, but his flows are fine for my personal taste. I find them to be fun, catchy, bright.
Sure.
I find his character to be enjoyable. It is goofy. It is strange. This album is basically dependent on how much cheese you can take, and some people have hated this record. Some people have vocally loved this record. One surprisingly big fan of this record was West Side Gun, which came as a huge shock that I find that he enjoyed this record. But so like it's all over the place, and it's okay to hate this record. It's okay to like this record. I don't think it's the greatest record. I don't think it's Mac's best record. I think it is close to Good AM. It's better than Divine Feminine for sure, but like I don't think it's his greatest record. I think he matures a little bit, but I think he showed more depth on Good AM, and that's kind of what made it more.
Yeah.
This album is more spacier than Good AM. There's moments where he's just kind of like breathing, like he's kind of just existing with his vocals. But I still find it interesting. I find his cadences and his performances to be just strange and an oddity, and weird. But not anything bad really. I don't like his vocals aren't by judging terms bad, but his passion and his character I find to be interesting.
I think that's what counts at the end of the day, is the amount of like passion that you put into your record. And I think you're going to get more points for that than you are going to make a good record but have it be lifeless.
Yeah.
And I think like overall Mac is kind of just putting himself out on the line, and he's doing what he typically does, but I think this album was more for him than it is for the fans.
Yeah.
And I like that. I've always been a advocate for artists making music for themselves versus making music for them for their fans. And I think Mac is making this to heal, and he's making it to help his problems, and I appreciate that a lot. Whether or not his fans like it or not, he's still going to put it out there on the line. But yeah, I can definitely see it like being polarizing for people that liked Mac back when he was like a frat rapper.
Yeah,
aren't going to like this, but probably those people left when he started making like Good AM. Or you could even go back to like watching movies with the sound off.
Yeah.
You could I mean, you could probably trace it back to then. Those frat rapper fans are probably gone now.
Or they have matured to a sense where this is their feels album, this is their feels record. This is an incredibly
they moved on to Lil Dicky.
Yeah. Oh fuck no, Jesus Christ. Get that name out of here. We don't talk about that in my grandma's house. Get the fuck out. No. But I think this is a kind of like an album that tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, kind of like the feel good album of the year. It's just nice. It doesn't do anything super interesting. The production that he rips from, some people can say that a certain person should not be ripping from the sounds, which is completely understandable. But I think for what he does and the personality he works with, he does it okay.
Yeah.
It isn't reinventing the genres of jazz or funk or soul by doing it, but he is having fun.
I can't say that this will be in like the top 10 lists anywhere. I can't say that it'll be
in the top 50 or top 100.
I mean, I can't see this being like one of the top records of the year, but I think it's going to be a fan favorite. And for me, as of now, it's kind of a fan favorite. I'm like, it won't rank, but it's like a fan favorite because it makes you feel good. And it makes me feel good for Mac because I think that he's just kind of like a wholesome, good guy. And I think he's healing from something that hurt him, and I can't help but feel happy for him.
For those fans who look for those hip hop albums that you just want background music to, I think this is one of the good records. This is going to be good. Not that I justify that alone. I'm just listening to this in the background, which I have listened to this background, but I've also lyrically analyzed it. But like, I don't think there's much to grasp. I think with the lyricism, we already mentioned the amount of depth. It's very flat, but it is more the sounds and the cadences and his character behind his voice that all blend together to this unique form of kind of like what is the term? Fragileness, and how he's able to present himself as more of a fragile figure, and how he's trying to improve himself, how he's trying to mature. This is not like we've seen artists mature a lot recently, or being in the phases of starting to mature. Kanye West has matured over the past 20 years. Tyler has matured recently. Like, artists have constantly matured, and we've seen them mature. Is this the best maturation? Maturation, is that a word? Is this the best
maturing?
Is this the best type of maturing? No. Or showing of having matured? No. I think other artists have done this way better than him, but has he matured? Yes. Does he need to do more, though, to not be as polarizing? Yeah, I think his he can make music for himself, but I think he still needs to find lyrical depth. Yeah. And that's from all sides. That's from fans who love his music, from fans that hate his music. I think he just needs to find more lyrical depth and be more open about stuff, or be at least more interesting about stuff. We haven't really gone into a lot of the details of this record, and I don't want to touch upon that real fast. This album's 13 songs, 58 minutes, and he works a lot with John Brion, who's mostly known for doing film scores like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I think Lady Bird, but also working with Kanye West on Late Registration. That is one of his most notable production performance, at least to me, because that is a great record, has a lot of great soulful moments, taking College Dropout and essentially making it more ambitious, making it more grand, making it with actual production, making that style of soul, that slow down soul, that almost not atmospheric, emotional soul, into something powerful and real and majestic. And John Brion did that really well on Late Registration, and he does the same for Mac. He provides this funky, jazzy, soulful atmosphere that is very fun, lighthearted, and tugs at the heartstrings, and beautiful as well. This album also features production from Mac's Larry Fisherman pseudonym, as well as J. Cole, Damn Funk, Flying Lotus, and DJ Dai. There's also vocal credits from Damn Funk, Snoop Dogg, Sid, Thundercat, and JID, of all people, has a little vocal credit on here. As a whole, there's moments on here where I find Mac a little bit too annoying. I think moments like Wings and Ladders and Conversations Part 1 and the last 2 tracks, 2009 and So It Goes, come off. There's moments or instances on each track, depending that last for the entire track or last for at least a hook or a verse, that I just find them kind of annoying or I kind of get sick of it. Sometimes they progress into something different. I think like Wings and Ladders have progressed into something else, other different territory. Ladders has a verse that later comes to where he delivers more of his more interesting flows that he's always delivered, but I think some of his vocals on that just become annoying. 2009, I think it's just overly long. I think there's just the end of this just keeps on going. Each track's like 5 minutes. Does not need to be. It just goes on and on and on. The production, I think, is really beautiful, but it's just like you can only listen to this production so long before you kind of get sick of it and kind of need to move on to the next thing. I don't think Mac's performances on those tracks are that terrible, but they're not his best, and we've already heard like 50 minutes at this point. We don't like, I'm kind of just ready for this album to end. And it is more, some of his more critical points are at the end. His more retrospective or introspective points are at the end, but I just think we're at a point where it's just like, why save all your best stuff for the end? Like, you need to build up more of your introspectiveness over the course of the entire album instead of just waiting for the end to tell the whole entire story.
Yeah.
But there is moments I enjoy. I enjoy the track Self-Care. I find is very like high pitched, nasally, kind of raspy. I can't put terms on his vocals. I just find it to be super strange and weird. It's unmastered. His unmastered voice to be interesting on the hook. I find his flows to be something like on the likes of Good AM, which I really enjoy. And the outro, the bright outro with very like, it isn't super recognizable, but I find it to be works really well with the beat, works really well.
Yeah.
As a whole, I think that's probably one of his better performances on here. I really enjoy the beginning moment of this album. Come Back to Earth has a really late registration feel. It's a super cheesy, super bright and optimistic track, and he has a really emotional performance, but it has a real sunshiny. It's
got the silver lining on
like sun rising over the earth type track where you're just coming out of darkness. Now you're coming to light. Hurt Feelings has J. Cole production, and he is very present with his vocals. I really enjoy the wow, wow, wow that pops up through the track that he does. He feels spaced out, but I feel like I can still pay attention to him. Like, it's a nice meshing between the two where he is spaced out, but it matches the realm. It feels in sync with everything else. And how can you not be spaced out when you're in space?
Yeah.
Other moments, What's the Use? I think that is when you kind of get an indication of like what to expect out of this album with his vocals. It's sometimes going to be hit, sometimes it's going to be miss. It's kind of all over the place. There's some nice vocal performances from Thundercat, Sid, Snoop Dogg that kind of show up in little instances. Not enough though. I just think all these brief instances are just kind of weird on this weird funky track. But like, there's tons of moments on this album where I feel like it seems a little bit too funky, and Mac kind of is iffy on it, but he makes it work. Like, you come into it and you're like, I don't see this as working, but then at the end you're like, okay, yeah, he has enough catchiness and enough personality to kind of match this beat. It isn't traditional funk, it isn't alternative or experimental, but it works.
Yeah.
It like, he doesn't make it his own, but he makes it interesting, at least, so I am entertained with it. I find this album to be kind of hard to explain because I think it is more of a flat release. That production has a lot of depth, his performance has a lot of depth, but lyricism doesn't really have anything to show for it. I think there's a lot of good strings and a lot of good synths and a lot of good bass that is on this record, a lot of funkiness, a lot of jazz instrumentation, all meshed together into this weird world. I love the cover art for this. I think the cover art provides a lot of that weird space that Mac presents on this record. It's kind of like almost in another realm or in this bright room where you feel kind of isolated, sad, but at the same time kind of calm.
It reminds me of like an airplane.
Yeah.
It's like coming out of the airplane bathroom or something.
I think this is it's not good record. It's not a great record, but I did find enjoyment in it. I did have fun with it, and when going through all the other albums this week, like YG, or Travis Scott's Astro World, or even Cinchin Hawk, I found this to be a nice cool down from all of that. Even though I did have fun with some of the other moments earlier, I did find what Mac did here to be relatively harmless. And I don't think this thing is worth really hate. I can understand why you hate it, but I don't think it's really, at the end of the day, Mac Miller. He isn't the world's biggest artist, but he is at least trying something different, and he's at least maturing. But you may view him as a joke. I think people may view Mac on this record the same way as you reviewed YG on his last record.
Yeah.
And kind of just pass him off as nothing more than a joke. But I think Mac's performance on this I find to be fun, lighthearted.
Yeah.
Casual, but at the same time, goofy, cheesy. And I think this record isn't for everyone. Really isn't. And I'm willing to acknowledge that. This is not the best record of the year. It's definitely not. It is not Mac's best record. It is not... It still hasn't found all the unique characteristics to make it his opus or anything like that. Not in any way. And Mac still has a lot to mature on, and a lot to improve, especially with his lyricism. Not his flow, but more his lyrical depth and his lyrical content. But I have fun with this. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I think I've rambled so much about what I feel about this record, but it's a nice background release, or background album. It's a nice album to listen to in the background. And it's fun, it's lighthearted, it's corny, isn't overly annoying. The production on it's fine. It's mastered well. Mac's vocals are goofy, strange, all over the place, but at least he is unified over the course of the project. Doesn't feel out of place. This isn't super out of the realm of what it was on Divine Feminine and what was out of the realm of Good AM. He kind of matured on that process. This is a expected sound to see from him on this record, and I was surprised when I actually did, because my thought was he was going to go somewhere completely different with this and switch it up again, but no, he stayed in the same in a realm that I expected from him, or at least something I hope I expected from him. Yeah, but that's all I gotta say. I think this is a decent release. People are gonna think this is the best album of the year. They're gonna hate it, and I'm on like kind of the more positive side, but I don't think this is like
no, I don't think it's anywhere near the best of the year. But like, I also enjoyed the release. I think it's a good step in the right direction for Mac, and I think that's pretty much anything new I have to add to the conversation.
I kind of rambled on just double checking myself to make sure I say all the right points.
I understand.
So I appease both sides of the spectrum. So I make sure people that hate this record understand what I have to say, but people who love this record understand what I also have to say, and just double checking all the boxes. So I'm sorry if I repeated myself a little bit too much in this review.
I guess I'm proud of Mac for releasing this, because I think he needed it, and I'm happy that he's feeling a little better about it. I think this is kind of like cathartic for him.
Yeah, but he shouldn't go all the way with this.
No, like, I think he should buck up and make a really hard hitting record next time.
Yeah, because I feel like if you saturate the sound anymore, it becomes like almost like that kind of positive rap territory of like NF and artists like that, like the fake deep, just like fake emotional deep.
Yeah,
and it's not needed. But I think what he does on this is harmless. It's very positive, very optimistic, very cheesy, but nothing wrong. He doesn't present himself as a godlike figure on this. He presents himself as Mac Miller, which is all he needs to do. He just needs to find stories to tell, like he did on Good AM.
Good.
And that's it. But until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
See you, boys.
Bye, everybody.